everybody, to the second episode of the Cozy Gamer Cast. If you don't know me, my name is Kat, or Cozy Gamer Cat, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Jess, aka Jess is Haunted.
Hello.
And we are back for a haunted episode.
We're back. Consistency. I'm proud of us.
A little bit of cozy, a little bit of haunted.
A little bit of
this
everything.
is the episode to start with, I think.
Yeah, I think this is our child episode. It's like,
yeah,
if we had a child, it would be this episode.
Literally.
Cozy Gamer Haunted.
Exactly. So if you didn't realize, today's episode is all about cozy horror games. This is also kind of our first official episode of the podcast where we have a little structure. We are going to start with just general indie game news that happened this month. Then we're going to jump into our topic of the day, which is, can horror games be cozy? Which we'll dive in a bit more later. And then we're just going to end with our assigned game of the week for you all and just some general chats so you guys can get to know us and stuff. But
Yep.
Anyways, how are you doing, Jess? Are you excited for our second episode?
I am excited for the second episode. I am very tired. I've been out of the house for 3 days straight now, and that is very unusual for me.
Gosh,
but I wanted to do this podcast. I wanted the second episode. So I'm here. I'm half asleep, but I'm here.
I feel that so deeply that after our last podcast, first of all, it went way longer than we expected and we had so much fun. And we were talking after, it's it's so different to Twitch streaming where there's a lot of different inputs that are happening. Whereas this is just we just get to sit here and talk, which both of us like to do.
Yeah.
So it's nice. I was excited to film this record, whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm also very tired. It's been a long gosh darn week. And I'm excited to just talk about some games.
Yeah, the thing that we do best.
Clearly, we are such experts. Everyone should listen to us.
So. Perfect opinions.
Anyways, that brings us to the first topic of the day. We should talk a little bit about the indie game news we have been made aware of the month. We are recording this in the past, so hello, future people.
Hello, future me.
I hope future's good.
Yeah.
Nothing bad has happened.
I hope you are happy.
But specifically, we are at the beginning of July here in the past. Yeah, we had a big month of cozy games specifically, but obviously cozy indie games too. And a huge amount of releases that I have not been able to keep up with nearly enough. But some of the standouts that came out this month, Fall of Porcupine. I think it's Fall of.
Did you play the demo for that?
I haven't. I'm terrible too because I got gifted a game key and I haven't played it yet. But it looks so cute.
It's so similar to Night in the Woods.
It gives me that vibe.
Is it the same artist? Because I can't believe that it's just so similar. I don't know.
Because it's not the same devs, but maybe maybe it's the same artist.
Yeah, maybe.
It looks super cute, and I'm so for people ripping off Night in the Woods because I need more of that.
Absolutely,
that game's incredible.
Absolutely. I think everybody wanted a sequel, and now we can't have that sequel, so everybody can just get the concept and keep it alive.
We'll talk about announcements later, but they did announce the same dev of Night in the Woods is doing another game. We got a trailer for it at Wholesome Games, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
But one of the devs,
it was the little cat or something. But anyways, so we might have something on the horizon for that. But yeah, Fall of the Porcupine I think looks like a good tide over if you miss Night in the Woods.
Yeah.
I have no clue what the gameplay's like, but it looks cute.
It's very similar. I mean, at least in the demo, it has very similar vibes in terms of gameplay as well.
Dope.
Yeah.
The next big one that was a surprise release was Smushi Come Home. It came out the day of Wholesome Games, which, cool to shadow drop a cozy game. I just thought that was fun.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. I've been playing that a lot.
Oh, you have? How is it?
Really cute. It's very similar to Mail Time.
Yeah, how does it compare? Is it better? Is it how do you which one do you like better?
They both, I feel take a slightly different approach, but very similar. They're both open world, fetch quest games where you play as a little mushroom person. So it's not going to vary that much, but
I love a mushroom.
Smushi, I feel brings a little bit more platforming gameplay than Mail Time does. There's this interesting thing where he has a little, what's it called, a staple, and he uses it as his pickaxe when he climbs.
Oh, okay.
It's
Oh,
like a
that's
very
cute.
interesting
Yeah.
little detail. And yeah, you learn like different ways to do double jumps and stuff. Whereas in Mail Time, it's a lot more focused on the fetch quest elements
I see.
and a lot more story driven, I think. But both very cute, both very good. If you enjoyed like Summer and Mara and that type of fetch quest game, you'll like
Yeah.
either of those games. But
Yeah.
surprising that they like both came out, they pretty much the exact same idea in the exact same year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it happens sometimes. I think it's
Mm,
I've read indie developers like be afraid of having an idea for a game and not knowing that someone else already had that same idea,
yeah.
didn't copy it. It's just a coincidence. But it's really nice when you see similar games kind of promote each other. That's really nice to see
Mm.
as well.
Yeah, that was the cute thing about those two games that during the last Next Fest, they both had little references to each other in their demos. It was
Yeah.
really cute. So that's fun. I like when they work together.
Yeah, me too, me too.
Anyways, the other big one that came out is, and I promise I have French heritage. I speak French, but I feel like I overpronounce this word. I call it Dordogne, but I don't know if I'm like over Frenchifying that.
Right. I don't know about that one. Like I haven't seen a bunch of it. Please explain to me what it's about.
It is a hand painted, cozy like story game essentially. I've only
Mm-hmm.
played the beginning bit. It's up on my YouTube, but it made me cry right off the bat. Like you start the game in your like sleeping in your car and you're going back to your like grandma's house
Of
and dealing with
course.
death and loss, of course. But you're in this like beautiful French countryside and it's all like watercolor painted. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
it sounds beautiful.
I've been scared to play it more because I'm like, I'm not in the headspace to bawl my eyes out right now.
Yeah.
um, but I know I will when I play it. But it's really good. So that was one I've been anticipating for a while, just because I have like a weird connection with the south of France and like the French
Mm-hmm.
countryside that like my parents have been thinking about moving there and like so we've traveled there a lot and stuff.
Yeah.
So it felt very cozy to be in that environment, even if the setting is really depressing from like the get-go. But
Is it like narrative driven or is it like a walking simulator kind of thing or
yeah, it's
like
got like some interesting puzzles that you have to do. It's like a lot of it is like motion based, but
uh
not like motion controls, if
yeah,
that
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense. But it's like a motion type puzzle. Like you have to move the pen a certain way to find the thing.
Okay.
And it's third person, so it's not like necessarily a walking simulator. You're quite far away from the character too. So it almost feels like you're more like looking at like a landscape painting and like moving within that.
Oh, pretty.
But it changes perspectives a lot and stuff. So it's very unique. It's very nice. And I think the devs have really put like their heart and soul into it. So very
Yeah.
good release they had this month too. So
Mm.
congrats to them. I think they did a great
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. It definitely like for what you said, I want to check it out.
Yeah, it's very pretty, very pretty. But yeah, those are the main ones that I noticed this month.
Yeah.
And do we see any others release?
I don't know if this is the release of the full game. I think it's the release of the prologue, and I don't know if something else is gonna
Ah,
like come later. But the Palace on the Hill prologue, I think it came out the same day of the Wholesome.
what a stacked day.
Yeah, and it's like a game made by Indian developers, so that is really interesting. And it's like
Ah,
it's also set in India with Indian protagonists. So I always love finding games that are like set in completely different cultures than usual
hmm,
games.
yeah.
So yeah, it's like set in 19th rural India. So I don't know. I'm interested
Huh.
in like trying it because it looks really pretty as well. It kind of gives me the vibe. Have you ever played that game called oh, what was it? It was like you were a detective. It was like a point and click type of game, and you were like solving a mystery in France or something like that.
God, we had so many of those games when we were kids, didn't we? The
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
Carmen San
yes.
Diego and all that stuff.
Uh-huh,
God,
uh-huh, uh-huh. It's the kind of game. Is that kind of
yeah.
classic?
I would love more of those kind of nostalgic point and clicks. It's something I haven't played in ages. Although I know they added Pajama Sam to Switch, right? Like a bunch of the old games. I would
Yeah.
love to play those again. That was my childhood
Yeah, I
in a
actually
nutshell.
these games, I don't know if they came out on the Switch recently or like they were gonna.
Oh.
Anyway, let's just keep talking and if I remember. Well, it has that vibe.
Yeah.
Jack,
Yeah.
find it for me.
Producer.
Producer.
That's probably a good segue into our next topic, though, which is some of the big announcements we've had this month. Because, as we already mentioned, Wholesome Games Day brought a bunch of good releases on the day, which was huge. But we've also since had Summer Games Fest, we had Steam Next Fest, and an Xbox showcase. I think Annapurna also had a showcase in the last couple weeks. Like, we've had, like, every
Mm-hmm.
week there's been a
Yeah.
show.
There's a game,
So,
Annapurna put a game out, like they announced a game where you're like a T. You're like perpetually in T pose. Did you see the trailer for that?
no. Oh my God.
It's so funny. I think it's aimed to talk about disabilities and stuff like that. So the
Ah.
characters like cannot move quite as practically, or like it can't move the same way as other characters do, as the other characters in the game can, because it's always it's
Interesting.
perpetually in this T pose, and so it
Huh.
has to play the game like this, and it has to figure out how to do stuff and the puzzles and stuff like that with a T pose. So it's really funny. It looks really fun. I am interested in checking it out.
That's a good one. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
watch the Annapurna one. I just looked at a summary, but very cool that an indie publisher has their own like direct now. Like
Yeah.
this is a cool future. But yeah, any other big standouts for you from Summer Games Fest or Wholesome Games or any of the shows we've seen in the last month?
For games that are coming soon and that are not announced yet, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm definitely looking forward so much to Little Kitty Big City.
Ooh,
It's
yes.
so cute. It's the kind of cozy game that I need right now. It's just like a little bit chaotic, but like very
Yeah.
cute as well. There's also The Invincible, which apparently has very good story. It's like sci-fi or something like that. It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
not a cozy, but it has a demo, and I want to try that. It looks really good. There's also Botany Manor. I don't know if you played it
I
as well, right?
did.
I
Yeah, I
loved
played it on
it.
YouTube.
I loved
So
it.
good.
So good. The
Really
puzzles
good.
were like really, really good.
Yeah, it reminded me so much of Escape Academy, which I think also everyone should
Mhm.
play. But yeah,
Yeah.
incredibly good. That's definitely up there for me too, for sure.
Yeah. It also reminded me of another game that they announced as well in the Wholesome reveals. The start name EOS or EOS.
Ah, yeah.
It's like a game it's like a photography game. You gotta like
Mm.
try to imitate someone else's photography, so that you can go back to that moment in time and you can reveal like more parts of the story.
Mm.
But the way for you to like, it's not like a photography game that I know that you don't like them that much. Is for the way for you to like imitate that photograph, you have to solve puzzles, right? So it's more like a puzzle game.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of photo game I can get behind.
Yeah.
'Cause it's more of a puzzle game than a
It's
photo game.
definitely more of a puzzle game. And
Yeah.
apparently it seems to have a very emotional story. But
Mm.
I'm excited to see more of it when it comes out.
Yeah. No, those are good ones. Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
big ones for me, Little Kitty Big City. Yes.
Mhm.
We'll love it. The demo was
Love
very
it.
fun.
Yeah, very fun.
The big ones, the Tiny Bookshop, we
The
played a little
Tiny
bit.
Bookshop. I love the aesthetic of that.
It was
So cute.
so addicting too. Like I played it before stream to check it out,
Mhm.
and then I played it during stream again, and I'm like, I want to play this forever. And I finished the whole demo, and I was like, I need more.
Yeah.
So very excited about that. That's a very good, just like cozy, like could play for endless hours. The other one that surprised me was Venba, which is like a
Which
cooking sim, but you are kind of exploring the lives of an Indian couple who moved to Canada and is essentially going through hard times and might need to go back to India. So it seems like it's gonna be really emotional, and like there's a lot of interesting already in just the demo
Mhm.
notes about like, you know, women in marriages and
Mhm.
the expectations that they sometimes have for themselves and how others expect there's certain things. So I think that's going to be very interesting, and it seems to me like it's got a feminist angle from what I've
Oh,
seen so much of the demos, and I love a
okay.
good
We
feminist
love a
story.
good feminist
So,
angle.
yeah.
I love an angle, but if it's a feminist angle,
Yeah. Sold.
sold.
So excited for that one. It looks really good. And yeah, those some just incredible demos out of Wholesome Games. The Wholesome Games Direct in general, I was so hyped about. They did an incredible, incredible job.
Oh, the Gourdlets one.
Oh, Gourdlets was cute too.
Very cute. And there are other games that didn't have demos, but I'm also looking forward to them just because of the trailer. Like Henry Halfhead looks really fun. The one where you're like half a head. And I think you have to solve puzzles.
That looks so bizarre.
Yeah. And then Kibu looked beautiful. I don't know if you remember.
I don't know if I remember that one. No.
I mean, look up the trailer because it's really, really beautiful. It has like really beautiful photography and like art. And then there's also another one that I think ties up a little bit with the theme that we're talking about today in the podcast. This one called The Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like you are like a kind of like a hipster card reader or something like that, and you
like tarot cards or
tarot card. Yeah, like tarot reader.
Ah, cool.
But then you've been banished to the universe to sleep for like 100 years because you did something wrong or something like that in your witch. Yeah, and so you have to make a pact with a demon, and you have to create your own tarot, and it's kind of spooky, and it has like a really spooky animation of the demon. I played the demo, and I was very intrigued. And it also is very lore rich. Like every single card is like, it has its descriptions. It's like very, very, like if you want to read, if you like reading, it looks like a good game.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
Did you play
to it.
that Moonstone Island at all?
Oh, no, I didn't because I think it's a turn-based kind of game. Is it?
Yeah, it's like Pokemon-y.
Oh, Pokemon. Yeah. And I kind of have. I don't have a prejudice.
You don't like them?
I just sometimes I get I get a little bit bored by them, but I do
fair
admit,
enough. Yeah,
I do admit that they can be really good.
I kind of have a similar feeling. Like I've always been a huge Pokemon fan for sure, but I've always struggled. Like I've tried to play Final Fantasy a million times, and it's just never quite clicked. But for some reason, like Pokemon and Fire Emblem, I could play those forever. But yeah, this is very Pokemon, but it also has this like kind of funny storyline about how you're like a little witch on an adventure, and there's like farming and crafting and stuff. It's like a weird just mashup of a bunch of different game genres.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Which is very interesting. I'm excited to see how that one develops a bit.
Yeah, I think as cozy games like grow as a genre, we'll get to see more like combinations of genres and combinations of different stuff that comes out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
what was the one that we were messaging about this one? There was one on Twitter that went viral that it's like a cozy game, but it's like a murder mystery. That looks amazing.
That looks amazing.
Very excited for that.
I love a mystery, a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Love me some murder. Don't quote me on that. But then it also
You heard it here first.
Yeah, no, you didn't hear it. You didn't hear it at all. It didn't happen.
Jack, that has to make the cut. Sorry.
Yeah.
You gotta leave that in.
Nah. Broken sword. Yeah, Jack.
Look at Jack.
The point and click game that I was talking about, it was Broken Sword. Did you never play that? It was a point and click game about murder mysteries.
I've heard of that, but I can't say I've ever played it.
Well, going back to what I was saying about it, the Indian game that I was talking about, the art is kind of similar to Broken Sword, and it looks like so. I don't know. It hit in the childhood feels.
Yeah, I think that's good. Obviously, I'm gonna buy anything that makes me feel nostalgic of my childhood, just because I'm easy like that. And Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life, is proof of that.
Absolutely.
I didn't pay for it, to be fair, but I would have. I would have paid for a deluxe edition if I had to.
Yeah.
I found it. Perfect Garbage is the dev, and the game they're making is called Grave Seasons. It's an upcoming project that is a farming simulator, much akin to Stardew Valley, but with a larger town, and each time you load a new game, it randomly selects one of them to be a serial killer. Farm, fish, fight for your life, raise cattle, build a home, romance, stop murders, fish some more.
So it's gonna have like a lot of replayability because you can like start again. And then I wonder if the clues will be different. And
it looks like you can romance them.
Oh my god, I want to romance a serial killer.
And then they like die, so then you have to figure out like who killed the person you were trying to romance.
Oh my god, enemies to lovers. You could have enemies to lovers. Like you're the detective and you fall in love with the serial killer.
This is a slight tangent, but if anyone else is playing My Time at Sandrock right now, which by the way, it comes out on Switch on September 26th, which is going to be doomsday for cozy gamers because there's like 5 huge releases that day. But My Time at Sandrock, there's a romanceable character that is essentially the villain of the story, And I think he
Okay.
might turn out to not be the villain down the line, but I'm like, I'm not romancing anyone. I'm waiting for him. I'm like, the minute he becomes romanceable for my save, I'm marrying that man because
Oh
he's
my
like a
god.
hot villain, and I can't not. So
I am so weak
anyone out
for
there?
anti-heroes, yeah. And like villains who are not villains anymore and they have a weak spot for the main character. I'm so
Oh,
easy. I'm so
yeah.
easy like that.
It's so funny because like that's the stuff I read about all the time, but I would
Yeah.
never.
Yeah, you would never
like,
romance like a villain, like a real life
in
villain.
real life, I'm like very picky and like I need to be treated like a queen.
Yeah, and there is no
Never.
redemption arc for anybody. It's like, yeah,
No.
you're shitty, you're shitty. That's it.
Exactly. But very excited to romance these little pixel art people and try and find a murderer. Genius. I think farming sims need a shakeup, and this is the exact thing that we need is just throw some randomness into a farming sim. I'll play.
Exactly.
Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
We had a little bit too much fun with that section.
Let me gather my thoughts here. It's been a crazy month. Like I think we had some really good announcements. I'm looking forward to see what comes next. The indie space in general, I don't know how you feel, is just getting very saturated. There's too many games coming out all the time, and it's very hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is also like TikTok marketing and stuff has made it so like, and Kickstarter too, like any game can become like viral overnight. Yeah. And so we just get so much communication that it's almost hard to keep up with. But 2023 is looking good. I think we're going to be well fed, if not tired.
Yeah. And I think a lot of them, I mean, I don't know how many of them we will remember.
Yeah.
Because that's the issue. That's the issue when there are so many games that it's like, okay, I don't remember which farming simulator this was. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. So
yeah, how do you stay memorable amongst all? Yeah,
exactly.
It's tough.
It is tricky. It is tricky.
Anyways, this is probably a good time to transition into our main topic of the episode, which is all about cozy horror games.
Yay, cozy horror.
I wanted to introduce the topic just to talk a little bit about, first of all, why we chose this. And the main reason is there's been discourse, as there is on the Twitter
on the Twitter.com.
Although today, if you're listening to this in the future, Threads
came out today. Yeah,
I hope it still exists a month from now.
How do you have it? Europe doesn't have it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
maybe you know what I had to do? I go to Google and then you can download it. I couldn't find it on the App Store, but if I Googled it and then downloaded it off there, it worked.
I'm gonna do that right now.
Because
I'm gonna
I think you should be able to get it.
Let's stop this podcast and let's start threading.
I've been obsessed, dude. Like it's crazy. It's really good. It's a good vibe. I really hope it still exists when this podcast comes out because it's so far a good Twitter alternative. And you know, I hope you die a swift death, Elon Musk, and your platform. Sincerely, go to hell.
Kindly go to hell.
Anyways, yeah. Small tangent. But as Twitter does, there was some discourse in the last few months around a term that started to be used, which is the cozy horror game genre.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of debate out there. A lot of consensus, though, in at least the cozy gaming space, that to label things cozy horror has been kind of like a cash grab, or it dilutes the cozy gaming space. And I have some opinions about it.
We have some opinions about what cozy gaming can be, the potential.
So we thought we'd chat a little bit about it today, talk about some history that our lovely producers helped us pull together today.
It's not even just like about cozy horror gaming, it's about cozy horror literature and movies and all of that. We're not going to delve too deep into the literature and
we're not academics by any
because
means.
We're not academics, We're just gonna discuss what little we have read and what little we know, and you know, from our stand as gamers, gamer girls, hashtag gamer girls.
And to be fair, like we said earlier, you know, I'm cozy gamer cat. Jess is haunted. Who best to talk about?
Actually,
this cross section?
Actually, we're experts.
We are the experts in this
You know how people
specific
always
area.
say, you know how people always say, like, women always say things like, do make a lot of sense, and then end their sentences like, I don't know, I just guessed. That's the, I don't, I
Yeah, does
guess,
that
I
sound right?
guess.
Yeah.
Is that right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's us.
Oh, I
But
have
actually, we're
sorry.
experts in the coziness and in the hauntedness.
Another tangent, which Jack, feel free to cut out if it's not interesting.
Yeah.
But I remember being in a work meeting, and I was working from home, and my brother was sitting next to me, and he turns to me after the call, and he's like, "Do you know you finish like every sentence with 'Does that make sense?'" And I was like, "Have you never been in a meeting with a woman before?"
Exactly. I start every sentence with sorry, and I ended with
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah,
just-
sorry. We'll see tomorrow, I guess. That's just
You can't get away from it. It's just they'll think you're mad at them if you don't. So
right.
men are very
Right.
fragile. We have to play to their egos a little bit and
Yeah, we
let
have
them
to keep
think
it
they have an
soft.
option.
Mhm.
Anyways.
We're just joking, are we? Are we? Yeah. Yeah,
No,
just
yeah.
joking. Or maybe.
Anyways, cozy horror games. So it's been this whole debate, and I thought it would be worthwhile in our first discussion around this because it does bridge this gap of what exactly is a cozy game. Is it a defined genre itself? Can it include things that seem almost like an antithesis to what cozy would be, like horror or thriller games that might either A, feel cozy, or B, have some standing to be within a cozy horror definition, as we're going to explore in like literature and film.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. I think to start, let's talk a little bit about what cozy horror means historically. So like we said, we've doing a little bit of research around how this kind of term came to be. And I was actually really surprised. I didn't know that it was a thing in film and literature at
me
all.
neither. I think it's a very recent term for every
Mm,
single type of media. I don't know how
it's very
recent,
interesting.
but
Yeah.
definitely I don't think they were talking about it in like last century or something like that.
Yeah, because it's really not my genre. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really like horror films,
Yeah.
or I definitely don't read them at all.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's new to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like it's a whole thing
Yeah, I think
historically.
there's a discussion about maybe cozy horror can be like I don't think anybody has like a very strict definition. There's not like a lot of academia around the term in
Mm,
itself. But some people do define it as like this genre where they use horror elements or horror aesthetics or horror
mm,
tropes, but they scale down the stakes so
yeah.
it feels safer,
Mm,
or they increase the comedy bits or they increase the romantic storylines, so that it doesn't feel like the story is just about a monster or it's just about the horror in itself.
mm,
And then that also brings a discussion of that was part of a lot of the debate in Twitter and all that stuff. A writer named Simon McNeill wrote an article called "In Praise of Discomfort," where he kind of says that the reason why he doesn't like the term cozy horror or is worried about cozy horror in general is because he thinks that discomfort are like an essential part of horror. So if
mm,
you were to like have a story or like a movie, a game or whatever, whose intention is not to horrify you or to discomfort you or to like
mm,
unsettle you, then can it really be called horror?
yeah.
Which ties to the previous definition of like using horror elements but scaling down the stakes so that it feels safer, so that it doesn't feel
Yeah.
as horrifying, I guess.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea
Mm-hmm.
because obviously when you think about film or literature, like there are still movies that I would very much put in the category of like horror or thriller,
Yeah.
like, Midsummer, that kind of stuff that
Mm-hmm.
is definitely scary,
Yeah.
but like well, I guess it depends whose side you're on for Midsummer, but it has
Yeah.
a happy ending in my opinion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think so too. I think, well, it has a bittersweet, well, not a bittersweet ending, not for the protagonist, I think, but like
Mm,
I think as a viewer, you kind of see both like the positive and negative aspects of the ending.
yeah.
But I think it's positive for the protagonist, I mean.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of horror media over the years that has
Yeah.
had, yeah, happy endings, funny endings. Like every freaking Scream movie, you know
Yeah.
exactly what's going to happen at the end. So, yeah, the stakes are alleviated a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
still scary. And sometimes they make scary through jump scares, and
Mhm.
traditional like horror games are a lot like that too, where they're just throwing zombies at you or whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's creepy, it's weird psycho thrillers that have something weird going on. I think the
Mhm.
Lovecraftian
Yeah.
era Lovecraftian themes are a big one that we're seeing now in video games like Dredge,
Mhm.
that bring these like creepy elements. Still
Yeah.
very much feel horror genre,
Yeah, it's
but
like creepy elements
not
to
as
a
high stakes.
normal looking world or to a
Hmm.
pretty looking world even.
Hmm.
Because a lot of
Mm.
like Midsummer, for example, it's like really nice. It's like a really nice place. Like everything is beautiful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that is part of why it feels unreal and why it feels wrong.
Yeah.
So it's a good contrast to have.
That was kind of another thing that we found in our research here was a thread on Twitter by, I think she's a librarian, right?
Mm,
Or they are a librarian, I don't know their pronouns. Jess Nevins, who explored this idea of cozy horror in historical context. And we have kind of admitted that this thread has some issues because it's talking about an era where cozy is probably not even a word they used.
yeah, or not for no, at least not for this.
Definitely not for this, maybe not at all for
Maybe not
anything.
at all. Yeah,
I don't know when cozy came into like
the
the
language.
vernacular,
Yeah.
but it talked a little bit about this idea of like settings being important
Mm,
and how it can be a very cozy, comfy, you're in, almost like a Jane Austen book
yeah.
setting, but
Mm-hmm.
then with these creepy horror elements, whether it's ghosts or like Mary Shelley type stuff with
Mm-hmm.
zombies and
Monsters. Yeah.
monsters. Like there's these elements that you can just throw into a very cozy, comfy setting, which all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden makes it uncomfortable, but still fits it
Yeah.
under this kind of apart from general horror almost.
Yeah, because it feels like the settings feel familiar. It's
Hmm.
just a home, like the one that you could have, or like the one that I don't know, something that you can relate to. But then there's
Hmm.
something weird about it, and it's not
Yeah.
like it probably has a happy ending as well,
Yeah.
but it is about like this unnerving little part
Yeah.
that turns out to be a ghost or turns out to be any other ghost horror related creature.
That's why I really like this idea of discomfort being the key word
Yeah.
of like it makes you uncomfortable, but that doesn't necessarily take it away from being cozy, even though they technically feel like opposite sides of a spectrum.
Yeah, because like I actually saw a Twitter thread. The username is like soft and deadly, and I think it was really interesting to ask this question. It was like, why do we experience horror games as cozy?
Hmm.
And I think someone said something like, or I read a tweet that said something like, to me, horror is the completely opposite of cozy.
Hmm.
And I think it's really interesting how more usual than not, total opposites when they merge, they can become like really unsettling things
Yeah.
because you don't expect these two concepts or these two very familiar things to be on top of each other, like be like
Hmm.
mixed. And so when they do, it feels like something is wrong. So I can see how
Yeah.
something can be cozy and a horror at the same time like that. And also a
Hmm.
lot of the answers were like that of course you face your fears in a safe environment. So
Hmm.
it can be very cathartic to like play horror in the comfort of your own home, with
Hmm.
dim lights and stuff, and maybe a creepy music in the background or like creepy sound effects or whatever.
Hmm.
You can actually face your fears. You can actually be scared. You can have that rush of adrenaline that sometimes we all
Hmm.
kind of want in a very safe way. You know, there's
Yeah.
nothing's gonna happen to you. So that safe part is what feels
Yeah.
cozy about it, maybe.
It almost feels like there's kind of two definitions of like
Yeah,
cozy horror as an idea.
absolutely.
It's like the first one being this, yeah, like safe version of horror, like horror with low stakes, horror that
Mhm.
is cozy almost.
Mhm.
Or the second one that is more like taking something that is cozy and throwing in
Yeah.
the uncanny discomfort horror element,
Mhm. Yeah.
which kind of goes well with the games that I think we're seeing pop
Yeah.
up in this area too. That like
Mhm.
it can either be like Dredge, that's like taking very cozy game mechanics and then throwing in Lovecraftian horror stuff,
Mhm. Yeah.
or it could be like, is Resident Evil comfy,
Mhm.
cozy for you because you just really like cuddling up and you know how Resident Evil is formulated, you know kind of what happens in those games,
Absolutely.
you
And
know?
also, now that you say that, there's an element of childhood in it. Like, I think
Mm,
childhood in itself, it's very cozy. Just like
yeah.
the happy parts of childhood, I mean.
Mm,
For example, when I play Resident Evil, I'm not just playing a horror game, I'm playing a game that I remember from my childhood with mechanics that I remember from my childhood, and it
yeah.
feels familiar in a
Mhm.
way. I know how to
Yeah.
kill the
It's a
zombies.
formula.
Yeah, it's a formula.
Yeah.
It's a formula.
Mhm. In the same way that like those what are those movie Final Destination movies? Like you
Yeah,
know exactly what's
that's
going to
gonna
happen, but
happen.
it's still
Yeah.
fun. It's
Yeah.
still like I could watch those with like a hot chocolate or something. And even though I don't really like horror movies, I'd still have a good time.
Yeah, and
You know?
I guess you could make the argument of like, okay, but you need also media that feels risky and feels new.
Mm.
But everything is written, everything has been said, and I think
Yeah.
to expect everybody to make a game or make a movie or make whatever that is just
Mm.
a completely different new thing is just silly.
Yeah, I almost feel like The Last of Us
Mm-hmm.
sometimes hits those notes for me because even though it's very unpredictable and definitely does not have a safe or comfortable ending,
Yeah.
it lets you sit with the characters for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know? And it definitely by no means probably even a horror game really because there's not enough.
Horror in it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's obviously in a terrifying environment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it lets you sit with those spaces more, even though maybe in the next hour you're gonna have to fight for your life against a bunch of clickers. You
Yeah.
get this like long cutscene with characters. And I think like I haven't played enough indie horror to know what's happening in that space.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've seen of the AAAs, I'm assuming that kind of stuff is happening in the indie game space as well.
Yeah, I think the indie games space is more like survival. It's very survival horror rich.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And also with very good stories. Like not so long ago, Signalis came out, and it's a
Mm.
survival horror. Kind of feels like Resident Evil. Yeah, it's a top down. A lot of puzzles and stuff like that, but also a very, very good story.
Mm.
So it's kind of like what you say actually makes me think that there are different ways in which you can make a horror game cozy. Like, for example, I said it's set in a familiar environment like Resident Evil. You always
Mm.
know what is going to happen. But then you say the thing about sitting with the characters or having a good story or like really getting to
Mm-hmm.
know the main characters and the people you're playing as. I think that also can make it a cozy game. And I think Signalis, at least for me, was very cozy.
Mm.
It terrified me because it's not like something that I've played before, as in I don't know these monsters, I don't know exactly what's gonna happen.
Mm.
It's not like Resident Evil, that is a saga that I've been playing for like such a long time, and it terrified me. But at the same time, I wanted to learn more about the story. So I was
Yeah.
like, you know how you
Mm-hmm.
pick up a book and you're like, oh, okay, I want to read the next chapter. I've been thinking about it all day, and I kind of want to know what happens next. And so you kind of
Yeah.
you go to your bed or you go to the sofa or whatever, and you just start reading. That activity in itself, because it's very intimate and kind of lonely
Mm.
and kind of like it's you spending time with yourself, feels very cozy. And it can
Yeah.
happen with horror stories and horror games as well. It's
Yeah,
like,
for
oh,
sure.
I want to go. Like I'm playing, like I told you, I'm playing Firewatch right now.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And every day I'm like, okay, I need to know what happens next and whatever. And although it has some spooky elements, like to me, the more important part is like actually getting to sit down after a long day and being
Yeah.
able to, further this story, like see where this story is going. I think the indie game scene, like at least for horror games, is thriving a lot
Mm.
because a lot of original games are being made like with original monsters, like very original monsters, and also because they are nailing the terrifying aspects of it, and also because they're telling better stories.
Yeah, I think it's interesting and it's probably a good place for us to transition into games that we feel like kind of hit this genre
Yeah.
and that we've enjoyed. I think Firewatch,
Mm-hmm.
excellent example of that, where you kind of start thinking it's like, oh, this kind of like sad story, but this
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, and it seems kind of cozy to like just end up in a forest somewhere, and then it
Yeah.
very quickly derails.
It
Um,
derails very fast, yeah. And
yeah,
it starts with this spooky presence, right? That is in the
yeah,
forest. And this disappearance, which is something that is very related. Like when you think of forest, you
mm,
don't only think about the calmness and the nature, you also think about all of the people that have disappeared in the
yeah,
forest and all of the creepy things that happen in the forest.
mm,
So I think it's interesting Firewatch because it does start like a very cozy forest, like a lot of nature, like a time to reflect. about
Mm.
his life and stuff, about the life of the main character. But suddenly it throws you these very spooky things that we also think about when we
Mm.
think of forests.
Yeah, I think we're both quite big fans of the Oxenfree
Yeah.
series now. We're getting a second one
Yeah, we're getting a
next month.
second one.
Very
Yeah.
exciting. Same thing though. Like it
Mm-hmm.
feels like a horror film, you know? Like the
Mm-hmm.
kids are at a beach and there's some weird childhood trauma stuff that they're trying to get over. And then there's
Yeah.
like a weird, like mysterious radio making weird sounds and
Mm-hmm.
just starts to kind of unravel in a really uncanny and that discomfort bit.
Yeah. And then the characters also begin to unravel. Like they start fighting against each
Yeah,
other. And so it's like,
exactly. It's that aspect of like
mm-hmm.
making a cozy game horrifying
Yeah.
or a horror game cozy.
Cozy.
It's definitely the first, you know, of like
Yeah.
it feels cozy and then all of a sudden you unravel stuff and it
it
becomes something
unravels.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that kind of stuff for sure. I think Call of the Sea is the other one I wanted to mention
Mm-hmm.
because I went in. Actually, I started playing it, I think, because I saw you play
Yeah,
it.
I was playing it. I never finished it. And now you
And
finished it.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah,
now I
I
need you to tell
binged
me.
it.
You
was
binged it. Oh my
Oh,
god.
I played it in one sitting. Yeah, it was so
Uh,
good because I just thought it was a puzzle game, and I was like, I like a puzzle game. I
it
need
has
a
a
new
good
one.
story, right? It has a good story.
Really good story and
Yeah.
super weird, and yeah, like immediate kind of murder mystery, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of fantasy going on. You don't really know what's going on, and it
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of like the show Lost because you're
Okay.
kind
Oh,
of stranded on an
oh my
island
god, I love
type.
that. I love that.
It's so good and such a complete shock to me. I had the exact same feeling playing Firewatch, where I just feel like I came in with the complete wrong expectations,
Yeah.
and I was so glad that I did because I was
Yeah.
so lovely shocked
Yeah, because
of
Call of the
how
Sea
creepy it
also
was.
starts in a very nice island, and it's just like, oh, I
Yeah.
guess this is just puzzles.
Yeah, they really ease you into it. You just
Mhm.
don't expect where it goes.
Yeah.
So Call of the Sea, definitely one I will recommend to everybody over and over again. It's so
Mhm.
good and so weird. But first person puzzle game, if you like that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then also there's the thing of like mixing elements that, well, you know, it's a classic to mix children with horror. Like that's a classic
Mm,
that it kind of,
creepy.
yeah, it's creepy. And it kind of brings you back to the idea like people are complaining about cozy horror and all that stuff, but like
Mm,
children in horror settings are kind of like
yeah.
this cozy part, this part that feels safe, feels innocent, feels like untouched. But then you
Mm,
pervert it, you know? Then you disturb
yeah.
it. You make it something awful. You make it something horrible
Something
or
that is
sad.
wholesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something that is wholesome. You make it sad. You make it terrifying. And
Mm,
it happens with, like, for example, Little Nightmares, which, you know,
mm,
starts like this very. From the beginning, you kind of know that it's gonna be spooky because of the setting and
mm,
everything, and even the name suggests it.
yeah.
But it is this theme of like childhood facing the very big horrors of humans or what humans are capable of.
Mm.
So it's
Is
like
this Little Misfortune? Sorry, or Little Nightmares?
Little Nightmares. But also
Oh,
Little
okay.
Misfortune kind of falls into that theme as well. Of like being a child and then coming to terms with like, oh, this is horrifying. Like
Yeah,
people
I was
kill.
like,
Yeah.
I haven't played either, so
Okay.
you too.
Well, I haven't
Yeah.
played Call of the Sea, and Dredge I haven't played either. So it's like we're talking about games that we have played and complementing.
Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, Little Nightmares is like that. And it's like,
I didn't realize it had that much of a story. That's interesting.
well, it doesn't really have a story. I mean, it does, but it's never dialogue rich or anything like that.
Right.
It's more like environmentally, the narrative is told through the environment kind
Yeah.
of thing. Definitely, there's a point, and spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't played Little Nightmares. There are themes of like cannibalism and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so
This is like when I watched you play, was it Limbo or I can't remember if you played Limbo or Inside.
I
where all of a
played
sudden
Inside.
there's the crazy stuff
Yeah,
at the end.
yeah, it's like a little child just doing its little puzzle, his little puzzles
Wild.
and everything. It's fine, and it's just like it's a spooky setting, but it's kind of calm. Like not a lot is happening. It's just like, okay, you're doing your little puzzles, and then suddenly,
Spoiler alert.
Terrifying.
yeah, like the shit hits the fan, everything goes downhill. And it's terrifying. It is terrifying because you were expecting kind of like the same puzzle vibe to keep up until the end of the game.
Yeah, I feel like all of those games are in kind of a similar vein there, where they bring you into a very interesting setting
Yeah.
and slow start and then just ramp up
Yeah,
near the
ramp
end.
up. Yeah. But you're already too invested in the story, so it feels cozy to play them. It feels like, okay, I want to know what
Yeah.
happens to these characters now. And then suddenly fucking hits you.
It definitely reminds me of playing Stray for the first
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Because I was sold a
A
cute
cute
cat
kitty
game
story. Yeah. Cute
set
kitty
in a
game.
post-apocalyptic world. It was
Yeah.
cyberpunky. I was so excited. It was on PlayStation, and you know how much I love my PlayStation.
I know.
I was so excited. And then they were like, oh, by the way, you're going to have to run from your life from
yeah.
terrifying alien worms.
Yeah.
I've never been so scared in my life. And at that point, I think I'd played The Last of Us on stream and maybe some Resident Evil, but I just didn't expect my cute cat game to be a horror game.
Yeah.
But it worked. It somehow really worked. Like it just.
It's also that element of like you don't want to see this character die. I think it's different. From
the
like
stakes
movies.
are high.
The stakes are high. It's different from movies and books because when you are playing a horror game, it's like you are the one dying. You are the one who has to restart the whole thing until that saving point that you had or whatever. And the least or like the fewer saving points there are, the creepier and the scarier the game gets. Because like if you die, this is gonna cost you, you know? And at the same time, it's such a little cute little kitty.
I wonder how much of a cozy horror as a vibe or genre, or whatever you want to call it, how much of it is in the pacing of a game.
Yeah.
Because I think like some of those examples, you know, like Inside Limbo, Little Nightmares, Firewatch, etc., do the pacing of like a really slow start that then kind of pulls you into the horror aspect.
Yeah.
Or if it's something like Stray that's more like kind of here and there, like you're starting cozy and then you're thrown into a chase scene and then you're back to sitting on a cute little cushion or whatever listening to music and then you're back in a chase scene and back and forth. And same, you know, like The Last of Us and all those kind of more narrative stuff where they just give you a lot of long cutscenes between terrifying bits.
Yeah,
it just feels like pacing's really important there.
Yeah, pacing's really important. Yeah, the story is really important as well. I think we've made that conclusion as well. Like the better the story is, the more like captivated you are by it, and so it feels like a moment that you give to yourself when you start playing that game, even if it's horrifying. I've never played Strange Horticulture.
Yeah, that's
but
an interesting one.
I know that it's spooky. Like I know it has its elements. Have you played it?
I have. It's really good and really addicting. It's I think a very similar one to Dredge.
Okay.
In that it almost focuses more on this idea of cozy gameplay with horror themes.
Okay.
Because Strange Horticulture is essentially you're identifying plants and kind of fetch questy, like someone's giving you like something that they need and you have to find the right plant to match with it. But it's got all these like very dark, kind of spooky, witchy themes to it. And Dredge is kind of like that in its essence. It's a repetitive fishing game.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's like an insanity meter and Lovecraftian monsters throughout in a very dark setting. So it's like this repetitive gameplay, which is usually tied to cozy and casual gaming.
Yeah.
In a horror dark setting, it's like kind of another element here.
Yeah. I have a question.
To
Can you die in Dredge and Strange Horticulture?
Strange Horticulture, no, but you can fail and then like a really creepy scene happens where you're like, I think there is a madness meter or something in Strange Horticulture too. You get like,
how do you pronounce that?
It's a hard word. Horticulture?
Horticulture. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's better.
I work, this is a tangent, but I work for a German company. And I have never felt like I can't pronounce things. Like there's certain words like of our like agencies we work with and stuff that I just cannot say because
they're
of the
very long
sounds. And I studied German and stuff in high school, but like there's so many dialects and stuff that I'm like, there's just no way I can't say that word. Someone else say it for me and I will just nod.
Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. I'm always like, yeah, say it for me.
It's rough. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Dredge, I don't know. I haven't gotten to a point where I die. But yeah, there's this madness meter thing that like you're slowly going insane if you spend too much time out there and stuff that I think impacts your character at some point if you let it happen.
Yeah, because I think there's also that difference between, is it a spooky horror vibe, but it doesn't really scare you? Which I think I'm wondering if Strange Horticulture
Yeah.
is and Dredge is. Or is it
Mm.
a spooky vibe or a normal vibe, but it actually really truly scares you because there are things chasing you or you have to hide somewhere.
Yeah, I would definitely call it more discomfort than like
Like a slight discomfort.
scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because it's scary, you know,
Mhm.
like when you fail in Strange Horticulture. I don't know if there's a specific name for it, but
Mhm.
yeah, that scene that you get, it's like it cracks the glass and stuff. You just put the glass back together. It is creepy and like
Okay.
unsettling.
Yeah, you don't want it to
Um,
happen.
no, and
Yeah.
the Dredge is the same thing. If your Manus meter gets too high, I'm so
Uh-huh.
sorry to any Dredge fans out there if I'm butchering the names for things. Maybe it's not called Manus meter. I have no clue.
Right. We know what we're talking about, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's very unsettling.
Okay.
It's not like jump scares. It's not like in Stray, for instance, where I was
Yeah.
like yelling, running away from those enemies,
Yeah.
but it does make you go, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's more like it keeps you on edge.
Yeah, you get
Like,
goosebumps, that kind
yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah, like wah,
Yeah.
wah,
Yeah.
wah.
Sounded like a Mario character. Luigi's Mansion next.
Luigi's Mansion.
But no, yeah, I think that's a very interesting way to look at this
Mhm.
genre. I think there's clearly very different aspects to it. We've clearly identified this kind of idea of like pacing as a method to make something cozy horror, story, and then maybe this idea of like cozy gameplay mixed with uncanny story elements can all make a game seemingly fit into this genre that
cozy
also
horror.
exists
Yeah.
in other areas.
Yeah.
So I guess to answer our final question, do we think horror games can be cozy?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so. Like all of this just to say I think so.
Yeah.
No, but I do. I think even I am the kind of person who plays horror games, period. I'm not only playing cozy horror. I love games, not only Resident Evil, but I love things like
Alien.
Amnesia, Alien. Oh my god! Well, Amnesia was actually way too scary for me to finish it back then when I was like a little girl. No, but I was like 18 years old or something like that, or 17 years old, and I couldn't finish Amnesia of how scary it was for me back then. But I became a fan instantly because okay, how can you make a game that feels this scary? But yeah, definitely Outlast, of course, Murder House, like all of those games, Little Nightmares, which is also it also has like these little bits of that are very scary that like chase you, like kind of like Stray. It's very similar in that way. And I feel like, do I feel cozy when I play those games? No, I feel stressed mostly. Yeah, but I also feel a sense of. There are two ways that I can look at it. When I'm playing them alone, I feel like what I told you about that intimate moment that you're having with yourself. Like you are in these comfy pajamas, you are in this comfy place, like you make your space comfy to play this very horrifying game. And so it kind of feels like, I don't know, it kind of feels like comfy horror. Like just like that, comfy horror.
Yeah.
Another term, just like
here you go, another one.
Let's give it a name. And then when I played on stream, I try to make myself less scared by making fun of the monsters or like giving them silly names or like calling them cute or calling them hot or like I don't know, like treating them like friends or whatever. And then there's also Chad who's also making jokes about the monster. And it feels like that same feeling you had when you were like telling stories with friends or like around around a bonfire. Why is the image of like telling ghost stories with friends in a bonfire cozy if it's supposed to be terrifying? I think there's this sense of like I am of like group, like it gives you like, okay, I'm stronger in a group and I am not the only one scared, other people are too, so this makes this experience less scary for me. So I think another way to make a horror game cozy would be play with other people, so that it feels like you're sharing that horror and you're not alone.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think there is that extra element of, like we were saying earlier, how the definition of cozy horror generally involves this idea of like lowering stakes
Mm-hmm.
that added element of games being a thing you do with other people and not just alone, compared to maybe other media like film or TV where you can't have that kind of deeper discussion.
Yeah.
Gaming, and specifically gaming on the internet, kind of opens that up a little bit, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah. And what about you? Do you think cozy games can be horror games can be cozy? I'm like cozy games can be
Yeah.
horror.
Yeah, I think honestly I might answer the second of, can cozy games be horror? Because I think obviously I don't, horror is not my genre by
Yeah.
any means.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I will say about the cozy game space that is interestingly, I think, mirrored in this horror discussion as well, is that trying to nail down a genre into just one thing doesn't really help
Mm-hmm.
anyone.
Yeah.
Like the discussion that we're reading a lot about when we're doing research for this around horror literature and in media was people being like, well, no, it has to be this certain thing. But people are like,
Mm-hmm.
well, actually, it's always been multiple things. It's always been
Yeah.
both like thrillers and uncanny and jump scares and big monster stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't it also be a little bit cozy and a little bit different in
Yeah, a
that
little
way?
bit safe. And it also goes back to that thing that we were talking about last week, that sometimes you just want something that feels safer. So it's nice to
Yeah.
have that chance to like play or watch something that feels, and it is kind of spooky, yeah, but it also feels like it's not gonna traumatize you,
Hmm.
maybe.
Yeah.
And the fact that it exists, it's nice.
Yeah.
The fact that you can have that.
Yeah, I think that for me, it's just like about not feeling like we need to restrain a cozy game genre into one thing.
Yeah.
Because it's always been multiple things. It's always been farming simulators. It's always been like dating sims. And I think I'm repeating
Mm-hmm.
myself from the last episode, but I think it's worth mentioning here that like it can be an all-encompassing thing in the same way that other genres like horror games or adventure games include a lot of different aspects from other genres as well.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a place for games that border cozy and horror in this way. And we're seeing games that we've had for a long time, like Inside Limbo, Little Nightmares,
Mm-hmm.
kind of spill over into more indie games, like this newest one being Dredge. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more in the coming years
Yeah.
that are this mix of walking simulator and in horror as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you don't confine something into being like only one thing, or that you cannot have any new subgenres of that genre, I think that's the only way you get to create new things that feel exciting and feel like something you've never played
Yeah.
before. So I'm
Yeah,
really
exactly.
excited for like more spooky, cozy horror games. Whatever they create, I'm really excited to see it because I think it's never done before all that much, at least in the gaming space. And now it's gaining traction, and I'm interested in seeing more of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd love to see more because it's definitely been a comfortable way for me to explore
Mm-hmm.
horror and that kind of stuff. And not to say I don't really enjoy playing horror games more than I expected to, but only on stream because I'm too much of a chicken shit to play on my own.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But it does make it cozy that you play it on stream.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
But these more cozy versions of those games are much better for me and my
Yeah,
my
yeah,
own
yeah.
inability to be scared.
Yeah.
Anyways, that I think is a good segue to our
Mm-hmm.
assigned gaming of the week, which I don't think anyone will be surprised of. Month, who knows how many times we're going to put out this podcast.
Yeah, you know what we should have? We should have like a song to announce.
A little jingle.
Yeah, like a little jingle to announce the game of the week, or the month, because we don't know actually if it's gonna be the month or like the week or like what are we gonna do.
Yeah, I should really get used to saying assigned gaming of the podcast or something.
Of the podcast, yeah, of like
the pod.
Yeah. The pod.
The episode.
Yeah.
Anyways. But jingle, great idea though. That would be very fun. But yeah, we've mentioned it a bunch this episode, but we would like to play with you guys if you're open to it. Before next episode, we invite you to play Dredge, which is a new Lovecraftian horror game, but at its essence, a fishing sim. So it's got a very interesting border between cozy game and horror game, and we'd love for you guys to play it with us. I have only played a little bit of it. So
I haven't played any of it, so I'm really excited. I've only heard good things about it. And it's interesting because fishing is always like the most annoying thing you can do in any game. I don't know why fishing mechanics are always so infuriating.
I completely agree. Yeah. The most terrifying thing about this game is I have to fish.
Is that I have to fish. Like that's the part that I'm dreading the most.
But definitely play along with us and then let us know what you think.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear whether or not you think cozy games can be horror or horror games can be cozy.
Did Dredge make you feel cozy?
Yeah.
Or did it scare
we
you?
would love to hear your thoughts. I guess tag us on Twitter or something. I think we'll have a Twitter account by now.
Yeah, by then.
Maybe. Future
us.
Find us somewhere. We'll put stuff in the description on how to let us know your thoughts.
Yeah. As well as all the things that we talked about, like the games and
yes,
the things
our
that we
lovely
referenced.
producer will be putting all the details if you missed anything today and want to reference it again. Also, just in general for indie games, huge if you can go wishlist them on Steam.
Yes.
Makes a big difference. So anything you thought sounded cool today, go wishlist them and support the lovely devs.
So we can get more and more of them.
Exactly. Before we finish today, we figured we would do just a little catch up. Anything fun you wanted to share, Jess, before we finish our official first episode of the pod? Non-gaming related fun things.
Non-gaming related. Well, Haru has successfully killed. Haru is my cat, by the way. It's an orange and white cat, big cat. Has successfully has successfully killed all of my succulents.
Oh no!
So that's him. That he has.
Haru.
Plants are terrified of him. You know what is cozy horror? Haru hunting down the plants in my house and munching on them, like really, like a close up of him, like munching and biting them, and like the plants screaming for their lives, like it's coming for us. That is really cozy horror.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
I need to meet Haru in real life one day.
Absolutely.
But you have an Instagram? Do you want to share your Instagram for Haru?
My Instagram for Haru, it's Haru the Sunny Cat. It's like HARU. That's Haru the Sunny Cat, because he's very orange, very yellow, and he has eyes that shine like the sun.
And Jess is a fantastic photographer, so you should go check it out, because those photos are like literally professional. Every time I see them, I'm like, these are beautiful. I want this cat.
Thank you. That's your cat. You're actually his aunt.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's
Auntie
your
to
role.
cats everywhere. Love that.
What about you? Do you have any?
I've gotten deeply obsessed with K-dramas.
Oh, right.
I am just so deep. I started like last week watching them, and I have maybe binged like 10 by now.
Oh, okay.
It's getting bad. But I just finished watching My Name, which was 8 episodes.
Okay.
So not too long.
Okay, what is it
But
about?
it was kind of like a mafia thriller thing.
Okay.
Which was not what I was expecting from K-dramas. But the main character is amazing, and it's female-led. She's like undercover at the police, but she's like actually part of the mafia gang people. And she like beats the heck out of a bunch of dudes. It feels very like the choreography of like The Raid, if you've seen that. Or like John Wick type stuff.
Yeah.
So very high action, and then I immediately felt like I needed to cleanse my palate and just had to watch like 3 comedy K-dramas right after. So I feel like it's cozy horror.
Them. How many have you been watching?
So many.
Like
it's gotten really bad.
Okay.
I don't even know how much I watched this week, but the most recent ones I'm rewatching nevertheless, because I originally watched it with English dub. And I've realized after watching a few that didn't have an English option, so I had to watch them in Korean, that I actually way prefer watching it in Korean with subtitles. So I'm rewatching nevertheless, because that one is so good. Everyone needs to watch it.
I have to watch it.
Yeah, it's so good.
Honestly, I have to not fall again into the K-drama hole of like insanity, because it's really hard to get out of there once you're in. And you're the perfect example. You're like, you're my reference. You're like,
yeah, I am bad at hyperfixating in general.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, really good if you want something that's like a little bit less of like less wholesome, I guess. It's a lot more modern in themes and stuff. The new ones that are out, like King the Land and See You in My 19th Life, are both like coming out right now. So I've caught up on those. Those are okay. They're a bit cringy in my opinion, but they're fine. The one I'm obsessed with is While You're Sleeping.
That sounds
And
creepy. That sounds cozy horror.
It's yeah, it's kind of fantasy. It's like I guess it is kind of creepy. They can like foresee people's death. And then they try and correct it. And the main guy is the same guy from Romance is a Bonus Book.
Okay.
He's adorable. I love him so very much. But yeah, While You're Sleeping is very good, but it's like 32 episodes long. And it's just like every episode is like about death and like justice mismanagement. And I'm like, I'm tired.
I need my comedy.
Yeah.
Drama.
So
yeah.
I definitely need another hobby other than watching K-dramas because I feel like it's driving me insane.
I mean, you can go back to books and then alternate between the two obsessions until you drive yourself crazy.
Yeah. I think I need to get back into Tears of the Kingdom. I need my Korok hunting.
Yeah, I need to get back
something.
into Tears of the Kingdom as well. I need that obsession back.
One of these days.
Well, yeah. When we're not obsessed with something else. The new obsession of the week, I guess.
Then maybe that'll have to be my update every week. It's like, what am I
what are you obsessed with?
hyperfixating on at the moment?
What are you hyperfixating in? Yeah.
Well, I have all weekend on my travels to watch more K-dramas or maybe finally finish the book that I gave up on.
Oh,
we
right, because you're going to TwitchCon. Yeah,
I'm going to TwitchCon tomorrow. So again, in the future, hopefully I'm safe and sound. I am going to Paris. Probably the worst time to go to Paris.
Yeah, absolutely.
But very excited to meet a bunch of people. I will let you guys know next week when we film our third episode all about it. But yeah, it looks like there'll be a few indie games there.
Okay.
A couple publishers and stuff. So maybe I'll get some content to bring back with me as well.
Yeah, you'll bring some news.
Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe the news is that you arrived, that you're back and safe and sound.
That's true. Yeah, that's the most important thing.
That's the most
I
important
am
thing.
the content.
You are the content queen. You are the content. So silly.
That's the new slogan.
Yeah, we are the content.
We're playing around with slogans for Cozy Gamercast, so let us know.
Let us know.
You can think of anything better than we are the content.
Yeah. Please let us know. I beg of you.
Anyways, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, Jess, for chatting with me today about cozy horror games. This
horror
is very
cozy
fun.
games.
Follow us on all the socials. Wherever we are, we're probably called Cozy Gamercast everywhere. If we're not, details down below in the description.
Yeah.
And if you want to find more of me, my name is Cozy Gamercat on all social media, but in particular YouTube and Twitch. Jessica, would you like to say where you can be found?
Actually, no, I'm not interested in new followers. But I'll do it for
Gatekeeping.
you. Gatekeeping the community. No, my name is Jess is Haunted on all socials, especially on Twitch, where I stream Mondays and Fridays, a lot of spooky games if you ever want to come along and watch.
We're both also now on Threads. This is the big news, and hopefully still the big news when this podcast comes out.
We are threading.
Follow us on Threads.
Can you imagine if Threads is like really outdated by the time
it's probably dead and buried. There's going to be a new one
things
called
that age
like
poorly.
Who knows? It's going to be called like Callan something.
Yeah.
There's too many. I can't handle it anymore.
Me
Working
neither.
in marketing during a time of
500
Twitter alternatives is stressful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I can feel your pain.
I can't do it. But anyways, fingers crossed Threads is still around and maybe Twitter got bought by someone else.
Oh,
who knows?
Who knows?
Can only dream.
Maybe Mark Zuckerberg and he ends up ruling the world.
Our overlord, yeah.
Overlord. Who knows?
It never gets better, does it? Everywhere you turn, it's something worse.
They go to war with Disney. Who knows?
All right, that is a good place to end.
Okay,
see you, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.